Welcome everybody. My name is Ruzbe Faruman. I work for Huawei and I'm one of the IMTC Board of Director members. It's been a lot of talks today and yesterday about unified communication, video, collaboration and everything. And just to start, I thought I will test the room with a quiz and see if you've been paying attention. And there will be a $500 prize. So pay attention, and the correct answer will get $500. So unified communication is A, an oxymoron, B, a new viral dance craze, C, a great name for a rap band, D, a way for companies to improve business processes, enhance employees' productivity, and reduce cost. And the correct answer is? All right. Good. So with that said, let's move on to our panel. And I'm going to start by introducing Kfir, Pravda, who's going to be the moderator of this session. Kfir is the CEO of Pravda Media Group, a B2B digital marketing powerhouse that combines digital strategy, content and technology. Geared for achieving business results, Pravda Media Group counts among its clients several leading global technology companies, including IMTC. Kfir is the VP of marketing for IMTC. He has been for several years. So all the tweets and LinkedIn messages you're receiving, put the blame on this guy. Next is Mr. Jeff Pulver. He's an American internet entrepreneur known for his work as founder and chief executive of Pulver.com and co-founder in Vonage. Pulver has been called a voice-over internet protocol pioneer and has written extensively on VoIP telephony and the need to develop an alternative to a government regulation of its applications layer. I've been a big fan of Jeff for many years. I started reading your articles probably 18 years ago, and back then they were called articles, not blogs, as opposed to today.
Thank you.
All right, next is who? Tom, let me find you.
He's here.
He's right here.
Tom, I'm finding you here. Mr. Tom Erik is the CEO and co-founder of Videxio, a video collaboration cloud service provider. Prior to founding Videxio, Tom Erik spent more than 18 years developing and managing the Tandberg, now Cisco, video collaboration product portfolio, including product and technology development, strategy, and acquisitions. Tom Erik holds a master's degree in computer and automation engineering and computer systems engineering, and has published several international patents with the video conferencing industry. Keith, I think we can skip you. We already had your introduction. And last but not least, we have Shantanu. Mr. Shantanu Sarkar, Vice President in Software Development and Plantronics. In this role, he leads all software, firmware, and DSP development, and has been instrumental in helping transition the company's headset technology from standalone devices to cloud-connected wearable technology. Previously to Plantronics, Shantanu led the advanced technology strategy and corporate development team at Polycom. A 23-year-old industry veteran, Shantanu has spent the prior 14 years of his career at Cisco and was part of the original internal startup that became the $2 billion voice technology group. Shantanu is not a stranger. He's been with IMTC for many years. So welcome everybody, and by that I hand it to you, Kfir, please.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you guys. How many people here get every morning 50 emails to their mailbox? 50 emails. Only 50.
Only 50?
Only 50. Only 50.
No.
50. How many people here are getting, excuse me? 50. How many people here are getting 100 emails per day?
A day or
A day.
Oh.
How many people here are getting 300 emails a day? There is a correlation, I think, between the size of the company and the amount of people that raise their hands.
No.
Okay. And how many people here are getting more than 500 emails per day? Okay.
Behind you.
Ah, okay. We should talk regardlessly. There's a new app. I will talk with you about it later.
Okay.
If you know me, you know that I'm a bit of a data freak. And one of the things that I've done several months ago, I started to analyze my mailbox. Now, I'm not working for a multi-billion-dollar company yet. My company is growing, but not at the rate that I would like it to be. But still, I was starting to analyze my mailbox, and I got to one horrifying fact. The top 5 people that sends me emails are my employees. Okay? Which is a bit strange, because we're sitting in a room. We have an office in Tel Aviv and an office in New York. Most of us are located in Tel Aviv, meaning we're sitting in plus minus the same room, walking distance from one another. And still, top 5 people that are sending me emails are my own employees. And then I saw another thing. I was getting hundreds of emails per day. There was no way in hell that I will be able to actually relate to any of these emails. So I started to build all those crazy systems. We're using Google Apps in my company. So we started to use all those crazy systems like, let's put a star for emails that need to be answered today. Let's put 2 stars and download a Chrome plugin that adds additional metadata to the message for things that should be answered by the end of the week. And so on and so on and so on. Of course, it was futile. It just didn't work. I found myself spending most of the day figuring out what kind of system should I use in order to do my work. Okay? So what we've started in my company is something that's called the war on email. We decided we don't want to use email. There are things that we will have to do using that specific method, but emails are not built to be productive. Emails are built to, A, show everybody that you are working. Okay? There is the famous reply all phenomena. You get an email, it is sent to 10 people. You don't really have anything to add to the conversation, but you still click reply all and write something, so your manager will know that you actually exist. Okay? So that's one thing that is done by email. 2, send documents back and forth with comments. Not exactly the most easy to archive, easy to find kind of work process. And in some cases, actually deliver value. What we've started to do in my company is to use other tools. So we're using Google Apps. We don't need to send any more emails to one another when we have a document that we need to add comments to, right? We have Google Apps. Every time we go into a document, we see exactly who said what. We're using a tool which is not perfect, but is pretty good, called Basecamp, to manage all our tasks. So with a click of a button, I and also my team can see what everyone is doing, what are the priorities. And also we've done another thing, we brought in our clients into the platform itself. So they can see what we're doing for them. No more emails asking, what is the status of XYZ? It's done. They have a username and password. They can see what is the status of XYZ, okay? We've moved to a lot of IMs instead of emails. We've identified what are the communication needs that are one-on-one immediate and what are the ones that can wait. And we've managed to reduce the amount of emails being sent in my company in around 70%. Okay? Now, yes, we're a small company. Not saying that Huawei tomorrow can do the same. Definitely won't tell them to go to Basecamp. It's not as robust. Okay? But it is possible. And the thing is that we're not that advanced. The guys sitting here are that advanced. They are doing some very cool stuff in that area. And that's what I would like us to discuss in this panel. So I would like to start with you, Jeff. And you've started up with an app that is a collaboration app that is mobile first.
I'd like to call it a communication app.
Okay, so tell us a bit about that and the idea behind it.
Well, so the company and app which Kfir is referring to is called Zula, Z-U-L-A, and the thinking behind this was that when the world went mobile and we went mobile, our devices became our offices. You know, I believe out-of-office messages should not exist anymore, because I don't know how often we actually are ever in the office, let alone out of the office. But our offices ended up in our pockets. And when we started to think about how people communicate, we used ourselves as a base case, and just to make sure that we were not crazy about what we were seeing, but we realized that we adopted email in our mobile devices, but then our habits started to change, but email didn't. And if you've ever been in a situation where you're working with a group of people, everyone's getting CC'd on everything, you have lots of file attachments, then you have to go to a meeting and have order to everything, it's very hard to find that order, particularly if you use Dropbox or Google Drive or other types of cloud-based services. So we wanted to fix that. So Zula is all about the conversation, and what we provide is it's all private in the sense that your conversation is not seen by anybody else. But when you convene a conversation, when you convene a team into a Zula, you do so either by people already on Zula who you're already connected to via your contacts that you have on your device or via social. When they're together, what's really nice in the States, one of the big trends is bring your own device. That if you work in a 7,000 person company and you brought your own personal mobile phone to work, you don't want everyone else to have your phone number. So we actually protect everybody's privacy. We don't disclose the phone number or the email address of the person who's in the Zula. The person who convened it has it, that's all. And then when you're working together as a group, each person can private message each other by words and by text and by voice. One click and everyone's invited into a conference. Because you want to eventually, sometimes the streams are nice, but you actually want to talk to people. And so we believe in that. And so what we've created is a platform that we believe is going to grow into something fairly interesting. And because I believe there is a paradigm shift that is happening around us. Sometimes you don't see these things until after the fact, but we're living through it. And so I'm very excited about what we're doing. And so it's on iPhone right now. We have an Android version. We're releasing it shortly. When we do release the Android version, I will be personally making a lot of noise to inform the world that I know that exists. But I've been holding back only because I have yet to find too many teams that are iPhone only. It does work iPad, iTouch, but it's a lot of fun. And so you played with it. And if we have time later, maybe I could show it.
Okay. But why did you decide to start mobile first?
Oh, please. Because, let's see, maybe it's because I have twin sons who are in college and they don't do email. So there, I always looked at myself sometimes as a leading indicator, but now I look to my kids. And so if I want to communicate with Dylan or Jake, I got to text them. I had to text them. They'll courteously look at email 2 weeks later. And so if email really died in that generation, at least amongst my kids and their friends, and I wanted to do something in the era of communications, we figured we had to look at mobile first as a platform. And maybe it's also because I was such a desktop person. So I'm working in my own mind against myself and trying to create a product that caters to the way I want to be. And I'm very happy to say that the big aha moment for me with Zula happened this past summer when I was at a team meeting, and there were about 8 of us on the team at that time. And in less than the time it took for our VP of products to connect her laptop to a projector to show us a roadmap, everybody opened up their iPhones and had the PowerPoint inside that we all referenced all on our phones already. And then I realized the world has changed, that we actually have access to these documents. And for the first time in 2 years of carrying an iPhone for business, I felt productive. And that to me was where it all started. That feeling of empowerment that I can now be functional carrying just a mobile device. So we went mobile first because I believe that's where the world is going. And we will have an HTML5 version probably Q1 next year, but our core focus is solving and servicing the needs of the people the way they're working today. And now I actually feel comfortable enough. I'm also without a desktop, and it's definitely changed how I do these things. And considering I'm such someone who likes leading edge technologies, but I'm so stuck in my old habits, I feel really empowered, really enlightened to be able to do this and be excited by it in a very good way.
We're looking forward for this product to be more proliferated. And I want to ask Tom, Erik, you have a company that started how long? A couple of years ago, and you came from Tenberg. So, and you start from scratch in the new company. I mean, it was a company that you just founded, so you could set the tone, the way that people work together, and so on.
Yeah, is the audio okay? 1, 2?
Can you hear?
3? Can you hear me? No? Yes?
The audio is working?
Okay, good. So I've been kind of fosters like we saw with Anniken this morning around video first. So I'm all about kind of making sure that we can communicate on video. But the world is changing, like Jeff is saying. So what I experienced when we kind of left Hamburg, Cisco, was that people didn't want to be their own service provider anymore, right? So we all want these collaboration tools to work in enterprise. And the normal way of doing it has been that you need to invest in your own hardware, you need to build this on internally, etc. But what we discovered and what we saw was the kind of the phase where people are now actually willing to run collaboration services over the internet, right? So large corporations are willing to run their collaboration services over the internet. So what we did in Videxio was trying to build a platform where you ensure that high quality video experience and combine it with what's happening on the web and kind of over the internet services, but enabling it in a way that are very familiar from the telco business. So it should be easy to kind of sell, buy, understand, etc. So it's kind of trying to combine the telcos and the way you've been selling mobile phones and that part with the video services combined with kind of a lot of the web technologies.
And how many people do you have now in your company?
With 12 people.
12 people. And you're all located in?
So we currently just opened our office in the US, in Washington, D.C. We have an office in Paris, Dubai, Oslo, and Amsterdam.
A lot of offices.
They have less than one person per office.
Not less than one, but we have at least one, yeah. But it's about selling through partnerships. So you need to work local with your partners. So that's the reason why. Yeah.
Okay, and how do you start your morning? And the reason I'm asking you that is because when we had a small discussion before that about this panel, some of the people here in the audience were telling me, no, our company works this way. This is how we work, kind of thing. We cannot change the culture and work in a different way. But you started with a clean slate, and you're and you're coming from Hamburg, and you're coming with all this knowledge about collaboration. So I was wondering, how does it look? How does your day look like?
Well, it's actually funny because Annika was kind of relating into it. So my morning usually starts having meetings with Australia, for example. We have partners in Australia, 10-hour time difference, or 12 hours to New Zealand. So before I actually go to work, I have an hour meeting, update meeting with some of the partners on that side of the world. I'll travel after the rush hour so that I can work from home, travel directly into work, get some feelings of my colleagues, then starting to have a dialogue with the guys in the Amsterdam office, Dubai office, Paris office, and of course talking with partners around Europe. And then in the afternoon, when the US wakes up, you're starting to have kind of meetings with them, all over video, of course.
Over video.
All over video. And I think that is one of the greatest things about this high quality video is, of course, you have a lot of people out there by themselves, right? Sitting in your home office, etc. And I think the high quality video piece is a really great way of getting people to feel that they are part of the organization. When we're having lunch, people are dialing into the lunchroom, right?
Really cool.
And you can kind of have that dialogue that you're missing.
You really call it dialing in?
Yeah.
But
or connecting to our lunchroom. Just to have that informal discussions, right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's really cool.
It's interesting. And Keith, you're somewhere in the middle between social and hardcore traditional organizations and the way that they collaborate. So can you share a bit more of your experience with that, and how does the fact that at least some of the people here are active on social networks affect the way that they collaborate in their workspace?
Yeah, sure. And I liked a lot what you said earlier about the email piece. For example, we also saw this at Cisco, and we've changed the way that we work by implementing an enterprise social network almost as an intranet replacement. So it was, solving two problems. One was you have an intranet of apps, which was very much a Web 1.0 style set of pages and set of static applications, and also with no communication capability. So we brought that forward and solved those problems, but also added a social distribution mechanism so that people could use, for example, we, in our implementation, used the activity streams standard so that we could stream outputs. So as say I was posting some information, I could choose who I'm going to share it with, what communities, what individuals, and at what policy level. And then they would see that come in as part of their social feed. So it changed the way we work. Rather than scanning an email inbox, you were looking at a social feed. And then depending on the content that's in there, you could take some action. You could comment on the post that was there. You could review something and mark it up. So just like in your example, we changed from that mechanism of attaching a document, requesting a review, collating lots of reviews together. It's a very inefficient way of working. You know, I also liked what you had to say about the, you know, what you were identifying was if you're getting emails from people that are sitting all around you, you're using the wrong communication modality. I mean, there they should stand up and walk over and speak to you. There's no need for technology. You know, and sometimes we fall into that trap. You know, people have maybe a culture of chat, instant messaging, or of email, or of phones. I mean, a previous company I worked with, because we made voicemail systems, the number one way of communicating was voicemail.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, yeah. So it would be
That's
kind of, you know,
horrific.
Oh, God.
I called you, but I couldn't get you. That was like, well, so what? But if somebody said, I left you a voicemail, I mean, then it was like, you know, you must take action. Because that was the culture, right? It was just assumed that you would get it and that you would act on it because, you know, our own fault. I mean, we were making the technology, so there was just that attachment to it and assumption. But what a bad way to work. What a really bad way to work. And then,
So these are the guys that still use voicemail, you're saying?
well, this was a long time ago as well. But but what's interesting though is when you look at how that's you know, how that's changed now. When you look at, say, something like you know, with a social distribution mechanism and a social platform, especially a cloud-based one, people, you know, the whole concept of voicemail disappears because it might be something like a recording of some audio or a recording of a video that's streamed and available to people that can then comment on it. So the whole, it helped to change the culture and helped to change the way that that people worked. And for me, for the better, because I changed teams a couple of times, and when I would go to a team that were working still using an email distribution list as their primary way to communicate, it would just drive me crazy. I mean, I could see it in my day. The day went hours longer, not because I had suddenly got less, you know, good at the job, but because it was taking so much more time to go through all of that. And then one other area that you know, that you mentioned earlier was the out of office concept. And I think there's a concept in the world that has failed. I mean, we offer it as a solution, and most of the, you know, most communication platforms offer it, which is presence. But if you think about it, so presence is like a state-based system. I'm available, I'm busy, do not disturb, I'm on the phone, whatever state might be there. Yet we see people that are available, and the first thing you'll send them in a message is, are you there? System is telling you they're there, but you'll still check.
What they mean is, are you there for me?
Yeah, right, yeah, right, exactly. And that's why I think that is exactly it. And the concept I'd like to see is either presence goes away, because if we're just going to send a message to validate it, then you really don't need it. But maybe more importantly, the concept of semantic presence, presence with meaning. So it's not just a state anymore, but it's something that you know, tells you that the person is there for you, or in the context that you're trying to communicate with them, so you don't have to ask that question anymore. And you know, those are concepts that you know, to your question about how we you know, how that say social meets the traditional way of communicating, those are concepts that we kind of struggled with along the way, and I think in the industry we have to be prepared to change as well. But overall, the whole experience of working on a social software platform as a way of collaborating was a very positive change. It can take time. It's a cultural change in an organization, especially a big organization, but it also helps from a time zone perspective, because you can post some content, you can see comments on that when you come in the next day, you can move things forward. But basically, you know, it really, you know, in simple terms, you can get stuff done a lot more effectively.
Which leads us to Shantanu, because before we went on stage, we talked about how hardware is a part of the mix. I mean, I don't know if you're using the Plantronics headsets, but they have a specific headset that I really like called the Legend. And it does some very, very cool things. One of the things that it does provide is the ability to understand whether you're close to your computer or not as a Bluetooth headset. And it provides a lot of value because of that. And I was wondering, how do you guys see the future of that area? Because you are, in a sense, the last mile unified communication kind of platform.
Or at least the last 3 feet.
The last 3 feet, exactly.
For sure. So I was kind of thinking about the discussion and interactions you had. And so think about collaboration sort of ends up being two forms of collaboration. Right? There is asynchronous collaboration, especially when you work across time zones. And there is synchronous or real-time communication. You're on a phone call, you're on video, you're instant messaging, but it's real-time. And there is asynchronous communication. Now, Basecamp, Wiki, social, email, So collaboration ends up being these two parts. And yes, if you're 4 time or 10 time zones away, you have the opportunity of having meetings across 6 time zones where somebody's up at midnight. I'm sure you've all had that at one point or another. Or you have the unending email threads because nobody can quite get to a resolution, and then you have to call a meeting to resolve it anyway. So, and that isn't going away. So if you kind of don't look at the technology, look at what's happening in collaboration. I think you talked a fair bit about it. So it's mobile first. Yeah, that's a device everybody uses. And you have multiple time zones, and people are out of the office. So if you look at what's the future of collaboration in terms of the environment, yes, it is more time zones. Yes, it is more people outside the firewall. Yes, it is more people using their cell phones 90% of their time. So what does that mean? How do you make it better? And I kind of took the role of hardware of any of the devices, but take a step back a little bit. How do you adapt the environment to make you collaborate better? And I'll use Kfir's favorite collaboration tool, email, as an example. 15 years ago, how did you check email? You had a Windows PC with an Outlook client sitting at your desk, and you connected to an Exchange server. Right? That's how you check email. How do you check email now? Well, 90% on your phone. If it's Google, then sometimes on the web, and sometimes on a desktop app.
True.
So you're still getting to email, you're getting to the content, but you're getting to it from a variety of sources. You're getting to it in a variety of ways. Now, take email out of the picture, throw phone calls in or video in. Fine, I'm doing video from my cell phone, from a web browser, or from a dedicated device or client. How do I adapt? And I don't always have the same environment, the same devices changes 6 times a day. How do you collaborate? So asynchronous communications tends to be simpler. It's text-based. The real challenge becomes adapting your environment when on a phone call, on a video call. How do you do that? And to the point you made is, how do devices help you? At Plantronics, we kind of went through this a little bit. We did headsets. Well, they make great audio for a phone call or a video call. But when you take that further and say, how do you make things better? How do you make collaboration better? To a point you're making about sharing a document. It's great to share a document with someone. Let's say I'm sharing a document with Kfir. If he's near his computer. If he's not near his computer, it's kind of a waste of time trying to do a web conferencing session. Right? Might as well just stick to a phone call. And if he's 8 time zones away, how do I know? Well, if it's in the same room, I can walk over and look at it. But how do I know? So what's the best way, the best tool of collaborating with Kfir at a certain point in time? Is it a phone call? Is it video? Is it a web conferencing session with audio or video pulled in? Or is it an instant message? Well, depends. It's aspects of presence. Is he available? What is Kfir available on? And if he's on his cell phone, then the only thing is texting or maybe a phone call. If he's near his computer, I can do a web conferencing session and escalate that to a phone call and so on. But now I'm adapting that. So this adaptive ability, the way to make the collaboration as rich as possible. You've got 2 choices. You can either drop down to a lowest common denominator, which is primarily email, works whether somebody is next to me or somebody is 8 time zones away and not in the office, or somebody's on mobile. Is the lowest common denominator. Always works, which is why it's popular. You can always send it and it'll get there. Or you can raise the collaboration to the highest possible level that can be supported between people.
The challenge you have with email, though, depending upon the person you're sending it to, is whether it actually gets acted upon.
True.
Because I'm noticing with myself, so the answer to my question was Pine, by the way. Mm-hmm. I was on Pine from 1994 through 2011, and I was very effective. Mm-hmm. I think I responded to almost every email I got the moment I got it, and did not matter where I was in the world. It was pretty fast. My telnet sessions just worked. Right. That was my lowest common denominator. Ever since I've gone to push email, forget it. I mean, There are times when if I get 500 emails in a day, I remember that people sent me the message, but I never go back. And you know what I'm talking about, right? And so it's email. I'm past email now. I mean, I use it for attachments when I'm dealing with people who don't know me. But I believe that in real life, email will change. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Vince Cerf, the last time I had breakfast with Vint, he apologized for email. He did. I mean, it was really, no, he really did. And he apologized.
Rest my case, guys.
He apologized, and he said that if he knew it would become so popular, he would have done it differently. But it was cat out of the bag, and it was nothing he could do. I actually don't believe that. I think that if IETF or somebody wanted to take on email, I think we could redo it for the modern era.
True.
And maybe 5 years from now, maybe the next generation will find it productive and useful again. But right now, for me, it's like drop packets. And after a while, if you start sending me messages and I'm ignoring you, and you realize I'm still alive, I'm just really busy, and I have no way to communicate through a back channel that I can't respond to you, all of a sudden email becomes not so effective. And so whether I'm working on a platform, you're working on a platform, someone's working on a platform, I'm looking at these platforms because there's this embedded out-of-band signaling. There's this, whether it's presence, there's a feeling, there's an understanding, because we're dealing in a world where it's not only synchronous, not only asynchronous, we're kind of blending. And that's where the mobile world kind of brings us, because we're in the state that hasn't been defined yet. So yes, I agree completely. If we're dealing with aliens, send them an email. At least they know we're alive and that we could state our case and it's static. But I think that in real life, we have to think through, do we really want to email somebody, particularly if they're not responding to you? And how do you deal with that? How do you culturally accept, and how can you tell a friend, Jeff, you didn't respond to me? What's going on? And so I have a hard time scaling. When I was on Pine, I'll tell you, I was amazingly efficient, and I really remember being on top of my game. But ever since I shifted platforms, my need, I became more accessible, particularly on social. And so there's some people I know I have to text. There's some people I know I have to DM on Twitter. Some people I have to send Facebook messages to. Somebody I actually still have to send an email to. But it's so hard. And to have to monitor all lines of communication in 2013, it's a pain. So to me, I can't just go to email anymore. And particularly, I suck at it sometimes. And I don't have a real solution, which is why I really believe in what I'm working on. Because at least for the teams we're working together on, I know that we have a back end and it collaborates for a moment. But outside that spec of those people, yeah, it's a wild west out there. And I think that as you experience amongst your friends and your colleagues more drop packets and messages that are not being responded on, you too are going to want to figure out a way to solve that. And I don't think it's the way email is today. I think that there's a presence element that's missing. There's an availability element that's missing. There's a whole idea of private life. When your office became your phone and went into your pocket, what about my private life? What about actually being offline for business and enabling me to be personal, and then being available for personal but not for business? And there's no delineation there yet. So there's all these modalities which haven't really come out through the technology, even though we're living human beings and we're not dealing with it. And when it comes to collaboration in enterprise, are we dealing with server huggers, people who absolutely have to hug the server and want tight integration? Or is it over-the-top, cloud-based solutions which the rest of the world went to? And it's so hard. So it's a wild west. I think presence is needed. I think social is needed. I think video is key. I think three-dimensional holographic imaging would be nice. But at the end of the day, I think we have not enough solutions and we have lots of problems.
And that email piece makes complete sense, because if you think what we do in the industry is create implementations of software metaphors for real-life problems, right? You take WebEx meetings, it's a meeting, it's just remote and virtual, and it's got all of the features that go with that. Email is a metaphor for the postal system. So if all that we had was the postal system to do business in, and that email or postal overload was just lots and lots of letters coming through, imagine dropping those packets. You don't get to read them all. And so there's no doubt that, we've got to successfully find ways of addressing the other metaphors.
And these are messages, these are letters you actually wanted to open.
Yeah.
We're not talking about junk letter. We're talking about messages you actually wanted to open.
Right.
And also ends up happening as email, not to beat on it too much, but it ends up being used for a variety of purposes. It's the way you check with somebody on what the status is, or what status of the project is. It's the way you share documents. It's the way you tell people your life if you wanted to do that. It's the way you have discussions. Well, these are 4 separate needs, and you end up using the same tool for 4 entirely different needs. So it's kind of funny. Everything looks like a nail. Send an email to that. But if you've got a 10 meg file to share and 8 versions of it, no, it doesn't scale. On the other hand, if you have a discussion, then it's 400 lines long, and you've kind of lost the discussion somewhere in the middle. So that ends up being the problem. You use it for everything, including things it's not supposed to do in the first place.
As we were starting to look at our social platform, we carried out some surveys and went to some large corporations, some customers and some not customers of Cisco. And we asked CIOs a simple question, which can sometimes be the hardest answer. What are your tools for collaboration?
Okay.
So first you get a bit of a blank stare as they think and figure, internalize that. And then more often than not, the answer that we got, and this was just maybe like 2 years ago, the answer was email and an old phone system. And when you hear the answer, you realize it's maybe not so difficult to believe. In most organizations, non-technical, they're doing some job. They're in the business of making product, making money of some sort. So communications is not maybe their core focus. But when you think about it, you think, wow, in this day and age, that's not necessarily the best way of getting things done. There's so many more tools and possibilities out there to achieve work.
Mm-hmm. Other answer I've usually got to that is email and meetings.
Yeah.
And if any of you have kind of been in the start of a meeting where it takes 10 minutes to start up, everybody is dialed in, you got the document there, somebody can't join, so how do you get that person in? I am the 2 people who aren't there but are required to be there. It takes 10 minutes. So if you're talking of collaboration problem and frustration, emails, not the ones where you just walk into a room, but the ones where you have half the people are connected remotely and half in the room. That's the worst scenario. Take forever, and big source of frustration there as well. And those really haven't evolved. Pretty much the way they used to be.
Let's say that we have unlimited time and resources. And let's go and have a dream. Let's say that we have unlimited time and resources, okay? What will be your vision for the best collaboration system ever? Let's say that we can, we can do whatever we want. We don't have any. Put aside holograms, okay?
They work.
Right? Let's assume that we're going to use the building blocks that we have. Okay? What is your vision? Or the way that and by the way, it's not, let's talk about the industry. As we are all working on organizations that are not located in the same place, that are productivity is key for success, for business success. It's not a nice to have. It's a competitive advantage. If you're more productive than your competitors in the market, then you will do a better work, right? So, collaboration and productivity are keys for our work. So how do you see it? What will be, the biggest advancement of collaboration in your point of view?
Who do you want to go first?
Well, I'm convinced it's video. I mean,
I have a product. You can go to this website and sign up.
No, but it's really, I think, high quality video. And
Is it a free service? Or?
No, you have to pay for it. But I still think high quality video. I've seen so many examples of how it really has been changing the corporation, right? Getting people connected anywhere with kind of the same notion of being in the same room, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually had, you said you wouldn't walk over to the guy, or you would walk over to the guy instead of sending an email. I'm actually now experienced the opposite thing. So in our office, I mean, we're sitting next to each other in our offices, and we all have high quality video devices on our desk, etc. So actually what I'm experiencing is that I'd rather call the guy on video than just walk to his office. And the reason is I want to have my home base in a way, where I have my computer, I'm connected to the internet, I can have a quick discussion with him without losing my base in a way. So in a way, I'd rather sit there because I have these collaboration tools and call him directly there instead of walking over like 5 meters. So I think that is it's something that kind of bit me, that was a little bit strange, but it's the way we behave.
You obviously don't have Fitbit or any kind of those, or Up or
Any
Kfir,
device
because
that's
then you
trying to encourage
just
you to stand
you
up.
force yourself to walk around just because you want to beat the numbers.
And then looking at meetings, I mean, to an extent, video is exchanging meeting or replace meetings, right? But another thing is if you're doing meetings in cyberspace in a way, one of the things that you can do that you can't do in real life is you can participate in several meetings at the same time, right?
Okay.
So you can actually do and follow several discussions and stuff at the same time, which you couldn't actually do if you were in the same room. So video is
You know, one of the challenges you have with that is understanding the IQ of the people you're dealing with. Because, you know, if
That's
you,
always a challenge.
I
in general,
know. So
life.
when you develop systems that require someone to have an IQ above 80, you're limiting yourself to who you can sell to. You're limiting yourself to who's going to use it and who's going to understand it natively and intuitively. And I think that while people in this room and your friends and colleagues could appreciate the most advanced, super sophisticated systems, practical reality will show you that they all suck in real life because X, Y, and Z. Most of the time because people don't get it. I could tell you 18 years ago, when voice over IP was starting, you know, I sat there because it was easy and I said, oh, we should do all these cool services. And you know, while everyone else was basically replacing old PSTN minutes with ultimately with soft switches, no innovation. And I was still pushing, let's go purple, let's do purple minutes, let's do this, let's do that. Then a friend of mine got a job at Time Warner Cable. And he said, you should go out on a rollout with an installation, talk to our customers. Understand, they don't have a freaking clue what you're talking about. They want basic services to work okay. That's their baseline. That's what they look for. That's what they want. And we have a trouble selling that to them. So if you think we're going to be able to go in and offer any types of advanced communication services by default, you're sadly mistaken. And that conversation was resonating with me when you guys were talking, because I think that, yes, I think, Kfir, we can come up with an amazing spec of the absolutely top-notch collaboration platform in the world, but we're going to be narrowing our ability to sell it based on who the customers are. Because if we want everything that's all-encompassing for everyone, we have a lowest common denominator below email to deal with, which is the ability to convey what we have to people who can understand it in a meaningful way. And it's not to be demeaning to people who are not, you know, have IQs over 80, but if you look at the population of the world and you look at where intelligence is, it's not always at the edge. And it's not always in the center, but it's distributed in ways that are hard to market to. And I think that part of the reality is commercial success in these platforms require a mass market approach to selling things. Even if you have a vertical and you have your niche and it's awesome, it's trouble to go to the next edge beyond awesome because you fall off a cliff based on who you can really sell it to. And if you've ever bought a PBX in your office or a key system, how many people actually understand how to use their phone systems today? I mean, I'm still a member of what we used to call the Flashing 12 Club. I never programmed my VCR. I never learned how to do that. It's not that I can't learn, but I didn't because I felt no real value from it. And as an end user, I have always an issue between functionality versus obligation. It's like if you ever give someone as a gift a device, you're now obligating them to learn it. It's a burden. So when you look at collaboration systems, I think that we can spec out features we like, features that we believe would be amazing, but I think we have to balance that with the practical reality of how we're going to use it and who's going to use it and where it's going to be used and what verticals. And I don't believe that in real life it's going to take a very long time for conventional wisdom to rise up at a certain level so people by default get it. Now, I will argue that people born since the 1990s, they intuitively get it. There's things that in their DNA that somehow they figure things out. Yeah. Kfir has a daughter who's 2 years old, who I was watching at the end of yesterday's session. He was doing a FaceTime with her. She was throwing a ball to him from Tel Aviv, or from Renana to here, and he was catching it on the other side. She was understanding so many sophisticated relationships dealing with from gravity to visualization and she got it as a 2-year-old, right?
Yeah, but she's very smart.
If you've ever seen kids, if any of you have kids and you have grandparents, you go to the grandparents' house who have like these 42-inch screens and wonder why there's so many little teeny fingerprints across them. It's because these big screens don't operate like an iPad. And they're trying to go into the photo and move it around because those interfaces didn't catch up to where the kids are. But the kids get it, right? But here we are doing business stuff, and we're limited to our ability of what we can deliver on. So I refuse to answer your question on the grounds of incriminating me and my friends. But I do believe that there's a lot we can do, a lot we will do, but I think it's a generation or two until that generation demands upon the UI, UX people that we just do it the way they get it. And we're going to be gapping for a long time in between. Not because we can't do it, because technically I think we can, but I think that we just have a hard time communicating. If you call bullshit on it, if you disagree, please disagree. Because I like to believe that we can find a way to raise the intelligent quotient up high enough. But like when we tried doing Vonage, until the day that Vonage went live, there was a fight in the company whether or not we were going to be a service for consumers or a service for businesses. It wasn't until the day before they launched that they decided to go to consumers. I'm MVP and Jeff don't always get along because I always push for maximum viable product, not minimum viable product. And so I admittedly try to add stuff, and people take away. And they're probably right that we had to limit the functionality of what we did because ultimately we were afraid of scaring customers by giving them too much. And we could have done anything. And I think that there is an issue about technology and us getting so excited by it, at least I do, and then selling it and not delivering. And you wonder why you fail. And very smart people fail very smartly. But we need to find ways to make everybody win.
Even though it's not the same topic, I have to share frustration with MVP. I've had so many discussions, or there's another way of saying arguments.
Sorry.
With people, but I think if you're talking minimal, it's included in the viable because it's not viable.
I like that.
Okay, so it has to be maximum viable product, and that's the mindset we have to have when we design these things. You were going to answer. I'll come in after you.
I'll just sort of broadly agreeing with you also. Try to think of, is there even the perfect collaboration product? That's a great question. If you had unlimited time and resource, is there one silver bullet? Not sure that there is. If you look at the needs, you mentioned video-based solution. For a certain set of use cases, absolutely. High quality video gives you body language, gives you a much richer degree of interaction. But if you're sitting on a table out here listening to us talk and trying to collaborate with someone, you're not going to use video. So is it the same product that can handle video at one side and sitting on a table trying to IM somebody or send an email, heaven forbid, or one of those? So there probably are a set of tools. Now, you mentioned Basecamp. For a certain set of tools, finding out project status, great tool. I wouldn't have a conversation with my kids using Basecamp.
True.
Right? So there are different sets of use cases, and you can kind of have one generalized tool, well, what do we call that? A lowest common denominator email that tries to do everything. So we could try and build email version 2, which is, again, the perfect product to solve all collaboration needs. Or we could say, you know what, it's not one problem. It's multiple sets of problems which probably have multiple sets of solutions for them. And adoption will be based on users. Right? If it's teenagers, it's probably IM more than anything else. Right? They're not going to use email. If it's somebody else, 5-year-olds, absolutely. FaceTime and video over everything else. I don't know what a phone call is. I think called my my cousin's daughter on the phone once. She couldn't recognize me because she's 4 years old. She'd never heard me on the phone ever. She had no clue who I was. So, all right, can you just go to FaceTime? Oh, it's you. This is a 4-year-old kid who doesn't know what I sound like on a phone call. Never done that in her life. So people are different, is my point. So and adoption does tend to be, so I don't think whatever tools you have, subsections of people will adopt those tools. So Basecamp, or its equivalent. You use a wiki for it, you use a Basecamp for it. Yes, if it's project-based, sharing information, that's probably the best tool for it. If I'm trying to find the right people in the organization, not going through a directory hierarchy, a social-based tool is the right thing for it. If I'm going to have rich interactions, one-on-one or one-on-many, it's probably video, but it's not one tool. And to the familiarity thing, right? I was listening to Jeff's story and kind of remembering, we were kind of building the first IP phone at Cisco many years ago. There was no reason for it to look like a PBX phone. But guess what it looked like?
PBX phone.
And why? Because it would be
Skeuomorphism.
familiar.
Skeuomorphism.
You could drop it in and it looked the same. Now, under the covers, it was all different, but it looked the same, so people adopted it. And then gradually it changed, and the soft phones came in. The first soft phone actually looked like a screenshot of
Yeah, I
a
still
PBX
remember that,
phone.
yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then they improved and changed and so on. But you start off with something familiar and ease people into it. You come up with something that's dramatically different. People say, I don't want that.
It's kind of funny, you know, when they stopped making electric cars looking like spaceships and like cars, people started buying
Yeah.
electric cars. You know, similar type of thing. But
The Tesla is a really nice looking car,
Yeah, there you
electric
go.
or not.
And you know, I would say, you know, I agree with what you're saying, and also, you know, to Jeff's point about the sort of the entry level and for people's own usability and how they can use the platform. My answer is, I mean, I covered some of it in the closing remarks this morning, but I think it has to be an adaptive solution. Today's solutions are not. So if you want a collaboration solution that works, it has to be adaptive, not just, say, between conference rooms. That's easy to adapt to. But if you've got somebody dialing in to give a report from an oil rig or beside a railway line or a power line or something like that, I mean, there's no reason why we can't adapt video and the audio and noise in the background and stuff like that for, you know, because we know the location. We know what's going on in the environment. There's multiple sensor inputs that we don't take advantage of in today's collaboration solutions. So I think that level of being able to adapt to the environment that each participant is in, and then and not forcing their environment on everybody else. That's something we can achieve, and we can achieve today. And obviously then you've got to allow for, you know, the network conditions and everything else to facilitate that. I think that's a very a big part of it, in addition to what I said this morning.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes till the end of this panel. So first of all, I wanted to ask Rouzbeh. So as you've heard, it's not only me against email, everybody on stage here is against email. So did we manage to convince you that you need to stop using it? Yes, he's saying yes, which is good. Any questions from the audience? Any opinion about? I see a lot of people here that are actually collaborating in this panel as well. So I would like to know if you have any questions or points that you would like to raise.
It's pretty quiet.
Yes, it is.
You want to show Zula?
Yes, let's, therefore let's,
The cable.
yeah, so we have there the cable.
So you want to show it? I'll
Yeah,
show it.
please show it.
Me?
So we're gonna have a short
this
demo
first
of
time.
Zula
Yeah,
to see how it works,
All
okay?
right. Hopefully it will work. The live demos are always challenging. Is there a cable? Is there?
Yeah, it's over
on
there.
the table. It's on the small table.
Ah. Okay, it should just work then. I could switch to the video output. If you could change it over. So what I'm showing, by the way, is an app that was demonstrated. There it is. That was demonstrated in last month at TechCrunch Disrupt, and we actually won the Audience Choice Award, which meant we went up against 75 startups, and they picked us. So we put this on the App Store for iOS. And this is a team of, we were, I guess, 9 people now. I'm chairman of the company. And I started this with the idea that we were talking about on the stage about creating a platform for people to communicate. We're all about the conversation. And actually, my kids are there, because I actually use this to talk to my kids. It wasn't how we sell it, but it did work. But let me actually bring up Zula. And the other thing about Zula, which I found fascinating, is we actually built it using the product itself. That 9 months ago, this was a very light wireframe. And we actually, every week as a new build came out, we changed the look and feel for it. But these are actually real presentations, real app. This is actually our conversations from earlier today. So I got to be careful what I show here. But no, this is all real stuff. We're having some QA issues, but we're fixing it. But I'll show you the UI. So when you bring people into Zula, right now you can bring them in from people who are on the platform, people from your contacts, people via Gmail, Facebook, and LinkedIn. When they come inside, In my case here, I could show you, these are all the members of our team. In each of this case, I have the ability to message, like Hillel, I could send him a message. So everyone who's on the team, at any moment in time, I could message and call. I don't need their phone numbers. In fact, in most of these cases, I don't have their phone numbers. But through the app, we can direct message and we can call each other. Through the app, we have the ability to schedule events so that when we were having a meeting with the team, we schedule a team meeting, it goes into our local calendars, all very lightweight stuff. What I really like is the ability to have shared files. We integrated Dropbox and Google Drive, and this Zula goes back to March. And so at the very top, I actually pinned certain files. These are files which I needed to get to yesterday when I had a meeting to deal with them. But all our files are all there. They're shadowed on Dropbox, and they're always available. So imagine for every conversation that you have that's meaningful for you with your team, you can actually have a separate Zula set up and one-click access to the files. What's also really nice, particularly in this world, is one click, and I don't want to do this because they'll respond. I can convene a conference call right now and do a push notification to everybody on the team, and it'll say that Jeff Pulver is requesting you to join a conference call, and they will join if they're near their phones. So that's really sweet. We can search across the Zula. The other thing that's very nice, and I just show you this from Disrupt. So one of the things that's nice, we do this, we kind of like believe we live in the world between where synchronous and asynchronous meet. So the day after we made our presentation, Joe Friedman, who's our VP of Marketing, she says on the website, who thinks I should change the video to the Disrupt presentation? And we actually have, and I'll show you the tool in a second, but you can actually see how, in real time, you can actually vote from the team. You could vote on what you want. And we actually saw everyone liked it, because when you're composing a message into the conversation stream, you could share a photo, you could share a file, you can get someone's attention, you could shout, and you could take a real-time poll. So, and we're adding functionality to this as we get this rolled out to different teams. But our whole focus is team-based communication, providing a hosted conversation stream for your team. And it may not be the best solution, but it's an evolving solution and something which I believe will be the best based on people's criteria. But every team is different. Everyone's needs are different. But I'm really excited about where we're going, because we are a mobile-focused, mobile-first strategy. And we do texting and we do voice. We don't do video yet, mostly because it was my point with our team that when I use my iPhone, I haven't had a great experience with multi-point video conferencing from an iPhone. True. You know, when we get to desktop, when we get to HTML5, yeah, we can do lots of really nice things on desktops, but not necessarily on these devices. So this is Zula. It's our website is zulaapp.com, ZULAAPP.com, and I'm super excited. This is for me I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't excited. And I believe we have a chance to grow this to something be bigger than Vonage, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you for looking. It's Zula app. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. We'd like to say thank you to my distinguished panelists, and I hope that every time that you will open your mailbox, you will think about this conversation moving forward from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kfir.